Hello guys and welcome to this video. As you can see, the terrain's been sprayed with Mechanicus Grey. I forgot to do some images of that. I'm really sorry about that, so you'll just have to go for it. The next terrain I do, I will show you me spraying it, but it's had a spraying Mechanicus Standard Grey. Next, I'm going to stipple on some Dawnstone for some colour variation, and I'm using an old dry brush, a large one by Citadel. The bristles are very, very worn, you can probably just see. And what I'm going to do is just very gently stipple onto the flat panel areas. This isn't to give it a colour, this is just to add some tonal variation. It's just to stop it looking like a really flat grey. I'm also getting down into the recesses there. I'm using the worn brush. I do have another new brush which I bought for this project, but for now I'm using the worn brush. And I'm also doing some of the smaller pieces which are in the terrain. Very quickly, just dabbing it on, turning it round. Just keep the paint moving. Now I'm going to move on to the bunker piece, and I'm just going to stipple on the inside there. You want to leave lots and lots of the Mechanicus Grey behind. It really is a very, very gentle stipple. Again, it's for colour coordinating, tonal variation. Now I'm doing the outside, and then very quickly, once I finish this piece, I'll just show you the whole thing. And that's what it looks like now. It's had a full Dawnstone stipple. Already starting to look great. Already looks battle ready if you ask me. The next colour I'll be stippling with is the Storm Vermin Fur. As you can see, I'm still using the worn large dry brush from Citadel. When stippling, it really can destroy the brush and ruin the bristles at the end. They are reasonably expensive, so I'd always recommend using an old brush. And there's no point using a small one. Just get a nice big brush with some big bristles on there and start stippling away. Very gently. As you can see, there's plenty of the Mechanicus Grey underneath, there's plenty of the Dawnstone underneath. I'm only doing this to add a colour variation so that when we do the overbrush in the next chapter, it helps it look fantastic. You'll probably see at the end of this chapter that it looks really good on its own, and you could probably just add a wash to it like Nuln Oil or Agrax and use it as it is. But I like to go just a little bit further, and I like to add a bit more detail. It's the final bit now. Just do around the sides, dab it in there nice and gently, as you can see. It's super quick to do, but it's really, really effective. And now I'll just quickly show you in front of the camera. That's what it looks like there. I think if you gave that a Nuln Oil, it would look fantastic as it is. The next colour I'll be using is the Grey Seer. For this, I'll be using the worn large Citadel dry brush that I used before, and I'll also be using a new Citadel dry brush, a large one which I bought especially for this project. When overbrushing, it's essentially like a heavy dry brush. You just load some paint onto the bristles and you get the most of it off on the palette, and then you just apply what I like to call about a 90% coverage. You just want to, quickly go over it. And all of those colours we did on the stippling stage will be trapped underneath the Grey Mechanicus Grey. It will be in the recesses, and then you have the Dawnstone and the Storm Vermin Fur, which is like a dirty colour. As you can see, I've gone back to the old and worn dry brush when I'm doing these raised edges because it damages the bristles, and you just make the brushes last longer. It just saves you a bit of money. I'm trying to get all the paint on that palette. Just keep going back and adding a bit more. When it goes dry, add some to the brush, and then start doing the flat areas with the new dry brush again. Very quickly, 90% coverage, it's as easy as that. I think it looks great. super quick, really effective. And then what I want to do is get inside these recesses with the brush. Even though they're dark, you know, you will still see the colour. If you don't get the brush in there, it will ruin it. And then across the top, I've gone back to using the old dry brush again with the worn bristles, because those little spikes aren't going to do the new brush any good whatsoever. And that's the stockade wall. And then onto the bunker itself. As you can see, I've used the old dry brush to get into the nooks and crannies and to just basically stipple, because I can't really get a good angle. So I was just kind of dabbing and stippling in some grace here, and then I moved to the new brush and did some proper overbrushing again in some big strokes and really got out those details now. And that's the inside almost finished. I'll quickly give you a show. I think it looks fantastic. And finally, I'll just go to the outside. Same process, load the brush, get the excess off on the palette, and then just start applying it, looking for a 90% coverage. Don't worry too much about the deep recesses. You want the dark greys in those recesses. And don't be afraid to, to really grind that brush in. I know they're about £10, but they do last a long, long time. I've done lots of painting with mine. This is a brand new brush for this project. This final section now, I'll quickly do this, and then I'll show you the finished dry brush, overbrushing. Ready? Look at that. I think this Volkus terrain is fantastic, and this overbrush system makes it look absolutely amazing. I'm really happy with it. Next we're going to go into the Nuln Oil and I'll show you how to shade. In this section, it's an Nuln Oil section, so I've started with this little piece here, and I'm just giving, as you see, a very liberal coat. I'm using the Citadel Nuln Oil, and I'm using here their medium shade brush, and just giving it a very, very liberal coating. Don't let it pool and set. Make sure it's got a thin coat everywhere. First, I'm concentrating on these kind of raised, riveted sections, and I'm going across, and I'm using plenty. I'm topping up the Nuln Oil all the time, making sure there's plenty of liquid and fluid on the brush. And then I'm going to start just doing the flat panels and just going over the whole thing. It's already starting to look brilliant. I love the way the Nuln Oil seeps into all the recesses and starts to add the depth and the shadowing. I mean, it's a really, really fantastic product. And now I'm getting into those recesses that we painted earlier. Plenty of Nuln Oil in there. Getting around all the sides and the back and the bottoms. And then moving on to the bunker. As you can see, I'm loading the brush all the time, concentrating on the raised areas and deep in the recesses. And then on these bigger bolts, I'm just basically first tapping those with the brush. I want to get a nice blob, and then going across, the big, thick, riveted, raised areas. And after that, I'll move on to the panels, but I just want to make sure that those areas have got lots of definition, and then just into the panel areas, spreading it all around, making sure it doesn't pool, making sure that it's got a nice thin coverage everywhere and there isn't any great big puddles of it. Just keep the Nuln Oil moving. If you're going to paint lots of terrain, you're going to have to get used to using Nuln Oil and shades in general. Here I'm just dabbing on the great big bolts again. I did want to paint them silver, but it would just take so much time. I decided I'll have to do that in a parade ready video. This is just for battle ready standard, and then I'm going to move onto the panels. And as you can see, it's catching it, it's going into the little bullet holes, it's going into the recesses, it's just covering everything with a lovely coat of Nuln Oil. And then at the end I'll move on to the final section here, and then I'll quickly give it a show around and show you what it looks like. I used 1.5 tubs of Nuln Oil, I think, on the Volkus terrain, and I think about half a tub of it on this. You know, it does go down pretty quickly. I probably maybe buy a few of those a month, to be honest. It's great stuff. I prefer it to the Agrax because it's just so black. And here you can see that I'm picking up with the brush all the bits in the pool areas, and then I'm just spreading those around, giving it a final spread, just making sure it's nice and level and has an equal amount and a layer. And then I'll show you here. Look at that. It's darkened the grey sear down, and it's added real depth and definition to those bullet holes and recesses and shadows. Absolutely brilliant. Now we'll start adding some details. In the next chapter, I'll show you how I did the Iron Warriors. In this chapter, I'm applying Iron Warriors, just doing some detail work. I've switched to the Army Painter Regiment brush, which is quite a new brush. I bought it recently. It's got a lovely tip on it. And I'm just literally picking out some details. I was thinking of doing these like a brass colour or a gold colour, but I think it just sticks out too much, and I wanted the terrain to just, you know, sit nicely in the background when we do these battle reports on the channel soon. So I went for Iron Warriors. It's a really, really dark metallic. It's my favourite metallic paint, if they're a base anyway. You can then dry brush it with other colours, but on this I'm just going to give it one coat of Iron Warriors with the brush. I mean, it's that simple. And then I move on to the bunker and do the same thing. There's a bit more of the metal framework to do here, but it's the same process. Get some on the brush and give the brush a little bit of a twist just to get a nice point on there. You can see the point on that brush. It's really, really good. And then it literally is this quick. This is how long it took me, just giving it one coat. I didn't bother giving it 2 coats because I was going to give it, you know, a little bit more Nuln Oil afterwards. I moved to the inside and then onto the, you know, the upright supports. This is literally how quick it was for me to paint the Iron Warriors detail. And then it's more or less finished now. Once I'd finished this little inside piece, and then I'll quickly show you now. That's what it was. I did the side sections, the front, and then the other side. I think it really makes it pop. Still using the Army Painter brush, and now moving on to Brass Scorpion. I decided just to add the tiniest bits of colour to it. So I saw that there were these little boxes and these little, you know, pipes and things, so I thought, why not? It was super quick. I did this little conduit box, electric box, whatever it's supposed to represent. I just gave it a quick coat of the Brass Scorpion. I then switched it round, and there was the same practical box on the other side, so I just loaded up with another little piece of the Brass Scorpion, another drop of paint, and gave that a quick go over as well. Super simple. Just one quick coat, that's all it was. Like I said, I will be giving these a Nuln. All these metallic paints will be getting a Nuln Oil after as well. And that's the stockade wall done. On this bunker, I decided to do this brass scorpion. I might be going gold after, but for now, I just had the brass to hand. So very quickly, I just gave it a quick coat. The regiment brush has got a fine enough point that you can actually do detail work with. It's why I like the Army Painter brush. I like the triangular handle as well. I'm thinking of doing a review of the brushes on this channel at some point as well. But for now, you know, I would recommend the Army Painter Regiment brush being a good detail brush, especially for terrain where it doesn't have to be, you know, so precise. On models, you might want something smaller, but it's a fantastic brush and it's super quick. There's a piece down here as well. I decided to give that a quick coat of the Brass Scorpion. Not sure what it is. Looks like a plug socket of some type or a vent. Super quick, these details. Doesn't need much at all. And then on the inside here, there's a piece, and this is another sort of vent, I suppose, an open sort of grate work of vent of some sort. So just very quickly loaded the brush at once, and then just spread all the paint over it. And now look at that. I think it just makes it pop that little bit more. Really easy. Really, really effective. The final piece of detail work, I'm using the Army Regiment brush again, using the Screaming Bell, and I'm just going around the door frame on the stockade walls. I've done the same on the Volkus terrain, and I just think it helps to identify the accessible points when you're playing. I was going to use red paint like Mephiston red or something, but this Screaming Bell, it's a lovely metallic colour, and I think it makes the door look really, really good. It's that simple.